You know what I think is also so beautiful is really going into intentionality of who it is that you want to date. And sometimes we don't notice certain things. And I recently came back from a trip in Puerto Rico and I was on a golf cart. I'm mentioning another friend of mine. And it's funny because when I was on the golf cart, it took me, her husband and the videographer was in the golf cart in front of us. And I see in the back of the golf cart, there was like a little suitcase. And I'm like, why does he have this little suitcase in the back of the golf cart the whole time that we've gone from one place to another? And she's like, I don't know. But then we get to the dinner. And when we get to the dinner, he's like, hold on. And he like runs inside with his little suitcase. And we're just like, okay. By the time, fast forward, that we're walking into the dinner is entirely set up with itineraries and like very detailed things about the theme of the weekend. So I look down and I'm like, who did this? And he was like, I did. And I'm like, he's a very
in my briefcase.
Yeah, he's a very detailed person. And I was like, where are you? And then I go, before I finish, he's like in his little briefcase and his little carry-on. And the next morning I see him again with the carry-on and then in the golf cart when we're doing something else. And it made me realize, you know, she was a blogger, but before a blogger, she used to have a marketing job. And their love story is great, but he was also in marketing and now he's a music manager. But what I don't even know if they realized, but the intentionality of marrying someone that naturally is in your same wavelength when it comes to love is so important, because any other woman would love what he did for her, right? Especially if they're detailed. But it would be such a stretch for their partner to do it if they don't realize that, one, that's what their wife likes, but two, is not a natural talent of theirs. So she attracted somebody that mirrored her in the positive way. And I think a lot of the times we mirror ourselves in our shadows rather than who we want to be and who we want to present ourselves as. And I think it's so important because when I saw that, I was like, wow, I'm in this golf cart having this whole enlightenment moment, right? And my friend looks at me, she's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah. I was like, I'll tell you later. And it was just that the importance of a lot of the times, even for myself, using myself as an example, you know, I was talking to my friend last night and I was like, she's like, you know, you have to date out of the creative space. She's like, because you're she was like, I feel like God is trying to teach you a lesson and you're hitting the wall and you're like, I've said this to you and I'm like, recently I'm like, do I have something on my forehead that's saying that I'm attracting this type of person? Like, why does this keep happening? And my friend was like, well, maybe it's because you haven't learned the lesson. And I was like, I stayed quiet on the phone. It was like 1 a.m. And I stayed quiet on the phone and I was like, yeah, maybe you're right.
I think so.
And I was like, well, I want to learn the lesson because I want to actually attract somebody that is correctly for me. And even the video that I shared with you this morning,
Say that. I was just
right?
gonna bring that
That
up.
long video was so good. And I literally need that video in the description of this podcast because the way the woman breaks down that a lot of the times we are wanting the love in this person, but God, the universe, whatever it is that you believe in, will send us tests. And she said something in the video and she said a lot of these tests come in the spirit form. So you meet a guy and you're like, oh my God, I feel like I've known you 100 years ago. And it's because a lot of his similarities are not similarities that you want and all this stuff, but remind you, whether you realize it or not, about your last ex or any of your other exes that have similar characteristics that are probably in the negative, but because it feels familiar,
They're comfortable.
They're
It's
comfortable.
It's familiar, and it's what you're used to and what you have experienced. So you feel like that is what is available to you. So that's what comes in your direction. But it's like sometimes we want something that we haven't experienced before. It's almost like a too good to be true thing. And it's like, we don't know what that feels like. We don't know what that looks like because I've never had it. So yes, in theory, I want that, but like, I don't know that I can actually have that because I've never had it. So this feels familiar. This feels like something I can have. So you keep attracting the same thing over and over.
And also because it's fresh, you're not associating it to the negative feeling that your last relationship made you feel towards the end. It's a fresh new person. You're getting new perspective. Maybe they're from a different culture, or maybe they are relaying information, a little bit of a tweak. So you're not realizing I'm still going after the same characteristics of the person.
Well, like you said, if you don't learn the lesson, you're going to keep attracting the same person over and over in different relationships, but it's going to be the same person with the same characteristics that triggers whatever it is that you need to heal.
Yeah. And I think for me, when I realized that in the conversation last night that I had, I was like, all right, yeah, it's not even about the career that I'm attracting or the career path that these people have. It is about what spirit is this person? And I need to figure out how to shift that so that I can attract and truly comprehend that what I want, I am worthy of. I think my biggest confusion, and I don't know if anybody else is going to be able to relate to this, is that because I've never had it, how do I know that that's what I'm getting in the beginning? Because like, I'm used to the spirit, right? And it could feel good and whatever, and it could come in different people. But
explain that for people that don't know what you mean by I'm used to the spirit.
The spirit. So the video was saying that a lot of the times when you meet somebody and you say, wow, I feel like I've known this person like from another life, it's really like their
like
spirit.
Energetically.
Yeah, they're energetic. They're
connected to
the
you.
synchronicity that you guys have within each other is similar. And that's why it feels relatable. But it's really because you had that same synchronicity with a past partner. It's not that this person you necessarily had another life with in another life. Maybe you did. Who knows? Whatever. But like that's what the girl was explaining in the video. So in that instance, I'm like, okay, I actually could think about the last person that I got to know, and I'm like, they do have a lot of similarities to my last person I actually dated. And I'm like, ooh, okay, cool. This person may be more knowledgeable in this, but at the end of the day, the spirit, the characteristics, the way of processing information, it is very similar. Their work ethic, you know, like all this stuff. So now I guess for me is if I want to attract what is actually what I really do aspire to attract, right? How am I going to be able to see it's in front of me if I've never had it before? Because a lot of the times you have to trust the process. And I guess my biggest fear is that I start noticing the spirits that are from the past or like, you know, that are similar to past people and I push them aside, but then I see somebody that is entirely different and I instantly may think this must be it. It's unfamiliar. I don't fully trust it, but like let me step into it because maybe I don't fully trust it because of the fact that it's different. But then what if it's like another version of bad?
So I think to answer your question, for me, I think that the more I heal and the more I grow and the more I experience people in dating, the more I learn lessons, right? And the more I heal things about myself that are attracting these people to me. And in hindsight, I could be like, oh, I could see why I went for that person, or I could see why I didn't see the flag. I didn't have the awareness, or I hadn't healed that thing yet. So for me personally, I think that you have to, number one, not be afraid to attract the wrong person, because the wrong person is only going to help you heal whatever you need to heal to get you to attract the right person.
Yeah.
So you can't be afraid of attracting the wrong person. Like every man that I've ever dated has been a lesson getting me closer and closer to what is ultimately for me.
Yeah.
But also what's huge for me, I think also the more I heal, grow, and evolve and date, I think my intuition heightens. And so now I think that I just I know my intuition will tell me like, this is for you, or this is what you've had in the past. Like, this is something you're supposed to say no to. Maybe before my intuition was saying the same thing, but I couldn't hear it because it wasn't strong enough yet.
Yeah.
But now it's stronger. And so, maybe I won't hear it again this time, but next time I will.
You know, what's also came up in my mind when you were saying that is the fact that, you know, I asked the question, but I kind of ask a question and then I answer it once I time processes. And I did date a lot in the sense of go out on dates last year to try to see different people and experience different people and see what they brought out of me and what I could bring out of them. And there was one particular person that I went on I think 2 dates with, and I actually knew them for a while, but we never saw each other that way. And while he's a great guy, I was like, you know, ultimately it was kind of too underwhelming for me, and that's why I decided to part ways. But I remember when I was in it, and the second date that we went on, that was the final date, I was sitting in the dinner and I was just like, okay, is this underwhelming for you because it's too healthy? Or is it because it's technically not for you, and that's fine, and that just means no compatibility? And I came to the conclusion that it was just no compatibility, because I'm a very strong character, but I love to be very feminine in my relationships. And what I realized in that dinner is that he needs a woman that leads. And in relationships, I don't want to lead. I will love to guide at times, and I would love to walk beside you, but I don't want to lead. And I remember from like ordering food to like him making insecure type nervous jokes. Mind you, I've known this person for X amount of time. We've hung out a handful of times, but this was like the second official date. So the nerves by now should have like kicked away. We never kissed or anything like that, but the nerves should have already like, you know, calmed down. And I remember that I was like, no, I think he needs like those powerful, strong women that want to be like, I'm the head of the house and like you listen and it's like a powerhouse, you know? And I'm like that at work. But when I'm in a relationship, I want you to lead me and I want to feel not necessarily taken care of financially, but yeah, like, I mean, I'm going to make my own finances too, but like, I do want to be taken care of in a sense, but more taken care of in the environment, taken care of energetically. And I didn't feel that from him. And I think that it had to do with maybe his own self-growth that he still has to go through. But also, I just felt like maybe that was his personality. And I didn't want to feel like I would ever have to change him or make him feel less than by me telling him that. So I remember that I ultimately just told him like, I just don't feel there's any energy there. And we like ended it. And then he like literally stopped texting me overall. And I didn't take it wrong. I was like, you know, he doesn't want to waste his time. He's moving on. But I think that also in my own confusion of saying, how do you know? Like you said, when you still focus on healing, with time, you're able to see this is working, this is not in a shorter period of time, where before I would have to take 6 months, a year to be like, is this working? And then I would still make excuses for it and keep trying and trying and trying. But
Exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah. I also think that like how you said, I'm afraid that like maybe this is healthy and this is right for me, but I wouldn't know it because I've never had it before. And you're like afraid that maybe you'll like end it because
Yeah, self-sabotage.
yeah. But I also think that like in the same sense, if God, source, universe knows what you desire and what you're manifesting, like what's for you is for you and it's not going to pass you by. Even if you self-sabotage and throw it away, you're going to learn whatever lesson you need to learn, heal whatever you need to heal. If that person needs to come back around, they will. If someone else like that ends up being your partner, like what's for you is not going to miss you eventually at some point. You